And then the last point I wanted, Scott, your point about Biden and the strategy of the Republicans, which I understand it to be reasonable strategy, to try and saddle her with some of the negatives that Biden has. It is really interesting how little she mentioned Joe Biden in this speech. In certain ways, this was her declaration of independence.
I agree with that.
And she became her own person in this speech. And I've told you before, we'll see how this turns out. I think you're going to have a hard time saddling her in the way that you guys are hopeful that you can.
Well, she still flies around on Air Force Two. I mean, but that's the race, and it's going to take place in a truncated period of time. Can she get away from him, or can Donald Trump and his campaign apparatus drive home the point that there's no blank slate here, that this is a person who's been right next to Joe Biden, executing on the policies that you say have driven you crazy over the last 4 years? And there's really just a simple question for Trump to ask. If you're upset about the direction of the country, maybe you don't put the people in charge who are already in the White House.
Okay, so last night the DNC wrapped up. The DNC, the Democrat National Convention, they finished their week, and let's talk about it. So the DNC was mainly 90% a Trump crying snooze fest. Trump lives rent-free in these people's heads because that's all they got to talk about. They don't have any sound policies. They don't have any concrete details on how they can help the average American. So all they can do is say, well, we're trash. We're terrible politicians. We're terrible leaders. Our plans are garbage, but Orange Man bad. Don't vote for us because remember those mean tweets from a couple of years ago? Remember we cooked up some fake charges and made him a felon? Orange Man bad. Even though we're trash, vote for us anyway because of Orange Man. So outside of the Orange Man, it was a bunch of left-wing extremism, high taxes, and free shit. Because these people are communists. Remember, they want to distribute wealth among themselves. They want to take from people who work hard every day, tax the hell out of people. Remember, they hired 80,000 IRS agents. Remember, Kamala was the tie-breaking vote on funding the IRS to strengthen their ability to go after people who are not paying taxes on tips and other forms of taxes. They want to take wealth from everyday working people and people who build businesses and distribute it among themselves and among illegal immigrants and all types of other people who don't want to contribute to society. And they also had outside of the building people who they wouldn't let inside the building are some of their own constituents. They're pro-Palestine, ceasefire now people. The Democrats have been hiding from these people, ducking them, not even addressing their concerns or talking to them. The only politician who had the guts to go out there and talk to these Democrat voters who are upset about the Palestine situation was Vivek Ramaswamy. The Democrats wanted nothing to do with those people. And in addition to those people being outside, they also had a Planned Parenthood ban outside where they were offering free abortions to the people in the area, and they had a wait list, a long line of people trying to go in there, and they've aborted at least 25 babies as of now. I don't have the latest count, but at least 25 babies were aborted during the DNC week outside of the building where they were talking about, oh, we love children, we want to protect the families, we want to help you, this and that. Right outside the building where all of these Democrats were giving their speeches, they were killing babies. And of course, we had the black bourgeoisie, Michelle Obama, Barack, and a lot of other black politicians. They were there race baiting, talking about Orange Man bad, of course, and drawing up even more emotions because black people are some of the most emotional people that you'll find. And I'm going to get to the black bourgeoisie in more detail in another video. But back to these Palestine protesters, Kamala pissed them off even more during her speech because she did a tap dance. She said the little line that all of these politicians have to say, oh, I support Israel. I support Israel's right to exist and defend itself. And I'm going to keep funding them until the end. And I'll even send American troops to die for Israel. Well, she didn't say exactly that, but that's what she was getting at. Then she turned around and tried to say, well, it's so sad to see these dead Palestinians, dead children in Gaza. Oh, this is so sad. We're going to keep funding the Israeli military. We're going to give them all types of information, satellite technology, so they can find exactly where they need to strike inside Gaza. But it's so sad to see people dead in Gaza. You can't be on both sides. There's no fence straddling with this. You can't fund one side and then cry about the death on the other side. Doesn't even make sense. But let's get more deep into Kamala Harris's speech. It was very, very heavy on immigration. And I think that's because her parents were immigrants. And Kamala herself is an immigrant in practical senses because her parents were together in Jamaica, allegedly, and they were in California temporarily where she was born, but she was raised in Canada. She was raised in Canada by foreigners, people who weren't from the United States. She moved to the United States way later in life, basically an immigrant. So her parents weren't even from the States. She happened to be born in the States and got that American citizenship, but wasn't raised in the States and then came back. So this is very important for her. That's why she and Biden, they'll do so much for immigrants, but not a goddamn thing for ordinary Americans. And you heard what she said and her energy and how she said she wouldn't do a goddamn thing specifically for black people because her upbringing was as an immigrant. She came back to the United States as an immigrant, and she only started lying about being black because she saw that it can benefit her. Kind of like Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, whatever the hell the name is. Then she started ranting about Trump, of course, orange man bad. They all have to do that. But it was weird because she started saying, okay, I'm going to be a president for all people, while at the same time sneak dissing Trump, talking about we need to accept the outcome of elections, we need to tone down the rhetoric. She was basically trying to claim that she was for all Americans, but at the same time, she was speaking against the MAGA base. So there's no unity when you do stuff like that because they're not falling into it. And she got to the point where she literally started making shit up about Trump. So she started with J6. Let's watch this clip here.
Donald Trump is an unserious man. But the consequences of putting Donald Trump back in the White House are extremely serious. Consider not only the chaos and calamity when he was in office, but also the gravity of what has happened since he lost the last election. Donald Trump tried to throw away your votes. When he failed, he sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol where they assaulted law enforcement officers. When politicians in his own party begged him to call off the mob and send help, he did the opposite. He fanned the flames.
Completely made up. What? Trump sent a violent mob. They were beating up officers, and I want to see the video of that. I haven't seen this. The only people who were in danger at the Capitol on J6 were the Trump supporters because, like I said before, it was the Capitol Police that deleted a Trump supporter. It was the Capitol Police who got violent. It wasn't Trump supporters, but she's literally making shit up, and the audience is eating it up. Now, another topic, which I talked about yesterday, was Roe v. Wade. She's running with it. She's talking about, oh, Trump, he's going to push a nationwide abortion ban. He's not even going to need Congress to do it. He's going to ban abortion pills. He's going to get rid of fertility treatment. I mean, just making ish up. Let's look.
Because of Donald Trump. And understand, he is not done. As a part of his agenda, he and his allies would limit access to birth control, ban medication abortion, and enact a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And get this, he plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
She's an outright liar, man. Stone cold liar. Now, another topic, which she completely took out of context, was when Trump was threatening these European freeloaders and NATO, because NATO allegedly a defense alliance, which is really not. It's more an aggressive offensive alliance. But you have a bunch of European countries who are not paying into it. You got Canada not paying into it. And the reason why they're not paying to build up their own militaries, because when you're in NATO, you're supposed to spend 2% of your GDP. You're supposed to take that number and make it your military budget, at least 2%. Most countries in NATO don't do it because USA got it. If something happens to some little ragtag country, Croatia or somebody, Romania, they'll say, look, we don't need to build up our military. The United States is spending damn near $1 trillion on their military. So why should we have to spend money when the United States is going to come save us? And Trump has said, no, the jig is up. We need to reduce our budget because you guys need to pay for your own security. And Trump started threatening those people, saying, look, if you don't want to build up your military the way we're building it up, when Putin comes after you, you're on your own. So Trump was given a threat. He's basically playing hardball with these freeloading countries to make them pay up. But Kamala, she said, oh, he wants to abandon us. He doesn't care. He wants Putin to completely take over the whole world.
Trump, on the other hand, threatened to abandon NATO. He encouraged Putin to invade our allies.
Like I said, just completely making shit up to trick our audience, but they're falling into it. And another thing she made up was the quote-unquote Trump tax, talking about the tariffs that Trump wants to impose on certain foreign goods. And they're saying this is a national sales tax. Trump wants to issue a national sales tax to bankrupt ordinary Americans. Complete lie. And the whole issue about the tariffs, I have to do a separate video on that. That can get really complex. But this whole event, the whole 4 days, was just emotion and hype. Very, very little on substance. They scratched the surface level when it comes to policies because they're a bunch of communists and their policies are shit and they know it. They don't want to get too deep into that. So let's look at this clip here from CNN. They're talking about, oh, the DNC was so much better than RNC.
Even though they were just 1 month apart, the Republican National Convention and Democratic National Convention were held in political contexts worlds apart, it seemed. The result, two starkly different, this seems to be the word of the election, vibes that were perhaps nowhere more evident during the convention's respective roll calls.
I'd like to welcome you all to the Democratic National Convention roll call.
Let us commence with the call of the roll of the states.
5, get loud, another round of shots. DNC, turn out for what?
Iowa, 40 delegates.
Dude, you gotta do it.
I am proud to cast our 39 votes for the first black woman president, Kamala Harris!
New Mexico cast all 22 votes for the next president of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
So you're playing music, you bring in rappers and got people crying, and you bring in a bunch of people from the black bourgeoisie, and this makes you better than the RNC? When the RNC was way more sound on policies. It's not about a party dancing. You see what I'm saying? These people are all about emotion. They want to get you dancing and twerking and hateful about Orange Man and build up their energy so you can go vote on absolutely nothing. While the RNC, they actually respect their American people, and they're not going to try to sell you with somebody shaking their ass with rappers. They're going to sell you on, this is how we can help you build your business. This is how we can keep your community safe. This is how we can help you build generational wealth. That's what the RNC sells. The Democrats are selling people shaking their ass and free abortions. And these propagandists on CNN got the nerve to try to say, well, look, the RNC, that was just a funeral, and the DNC is lively and hyped up. Completely pathetic. But this whole DNC week, man, trash. Oh, and I forgot to mention, I did a video before what they did to Joe Biden. Had this man show up on the first day of the DNC. He was giving a speech after midnight. He's up there talking. Nobody was listening to him. And after that, he immediately left and was never heard from again. Nobody even mentioned this man. They gave him all those platitudes. Oh, we love you, Joe. Pats on the back. You did such a great job. Got him the hell out of Chicago. Sent his ass back to his basement in D.C., Delaware somewhere. and didn't even mention him. Kamala is trying her best to separate from him, even though she's attached to his policy. She helped with her tie-breaking votes in the Senate. She helped push a lot of his key issues that help inflate the economy. But now she wants to separate from him and act like she was never his VP, has nothing to do with his administration. Biden himself says she's the last person in the room. When we had this Afghanistan debacle and 13 Marines died because we're dumbasses, Kamala was the last advisor I had in the room. But now they're trying to pretend none of that happened. Kamala's not the VP. She has nothing to do with Joe Biden. So let me know what you guys think about this. Leave me your thoughts below. Share the video. Thanks for watching.